do us a favor by liking and subscribing. We love your support.
What if the most loving thing you could do for your future self was to plan for care you hope you'll never need? Today, in her words, I'm joined by Raymond Lavine, extended care benefit advisor, U.S. Army veteran, and advocate for planning that protects dignity, independence, and family stability. Raymond's journey from Hollywood Hills to infantry service, then to long-term care advocacy, was shaped by a simple truth. Listening isn't enough. Real support begins with comprehension, foresight, and empathy. In this conversation, we explore why caregiver planning isn't just about money, it's about justice, especially for women who are so often carrying the weight of care. Whether you're 25 or 65, building a career, or caring for a parent, this episode is your invitation to think ahead with courage and compassion. Welcome, Raymond. Thank you for joining me today.
Well, good morning, Washington State time, and good evening to all of you in South Africa and other areas of the world.
Raymond, your journey from Hollywood Hills to the Army, then to long-term care advocacy is deep and personal. What moment in your own family's caregiving experience made you realize this isn't just about insurance, this is about dignity, stability, and love?
Caregiving isn't just, for us older people, and I'm of the older people gender at this point, but caregiving is universal and it's almost at any age. And the way I describe caregiving is it's if you're a parent of children, or sometimes, I know that there are a lot of women that will say that their spouses and partners are sometimes children too, and they got to care for them. But caregiving is really, it's the same situation whether you are parenting for children or you're parenting for people that are older. And we always think of caregiving as, for us old geezers, that we need, what they call activities of daily living. There was eating, bathing, dressing, and all the administrative things that we think about caregiving. But caregiving can be almost at any age, because caregiving isn't where you think of frailty. Caregiving really means that if you've had an accident, if you have cognitive, if you have an illness, and illness can be at any age. You can get cancer, you can get strokes, you can have neurological, of which you will need caregiving, maybe a short period of time, or it could be months, weeks, or years, or decades. So, caregiving is universal, and I can't think of a culture that where people are not involved in caregiving. So that's the broad perspective. But when we think, when people think about, what I do is I do plan and design long-term care benefits. In other words, it's an insurance plan that will pay for your caregiving, not for your health, but what the health has done to you that you would need to hire caregivers, or depending on the plan, and this is really for the United States, if you have a plan, there's some plans that will pay fees, money to family or friends, or either licensed or experienced caregivers to help you, or it can be reimbursement. So it isn't just one thing. It's a variety of tasks at almost any. So that's sort of the general idea, because we always think of caregiving as you got to be at home or in assisted living or in a nursing home, and it's a matter of perspective, meaning where do you want your caregiving? What do you want it to do? And almost any culture is, who's going to be responsible and how you're going to pay for it.
You speak about long-term care insurance being for the caregiving. A lot of people confuse health insurance or Medicare with long-term care insurance. What are the differences for the between the two, and why is it critical to have? Sorry.
Yeah, depending on whether you're in America or other countries, there are a number of companies that have comprehensive health care. They call it national health care. Some people call it socialist health care, but that's really not always a correct term. But in America, we don't have comprehensive health care, meaning. Look, in America, we have health care, but we don't pay for, but if you want dental care, you got to get an additional plan. If you have mental health, if you need mental health, that could either be a separate plan. We don't have comprehensive health care in America. What we have is we have health care if you get, an accident, a disease, where it'll pay for visits to the doctor or specialist or hospital or if you need treatment in a hospital. Where caregiving benefits is separate, even in Medicare, which is a national health care plan in the United States for those 65 and older. It doesn't pay for long-term care. It's separate. So if you want a long-term care plan, then what do? Well, it depends on your health. It depends on financial suitability. In other words, do you have additional funds that you can pay for a long-term care plan? And this is also, I know you were telling me for your audience is and what you teach about financial matters and how to be more astute financially is that when we think of finance, we always think of retirement planning and investing, but comprehensive financial planning isn't just accumulating assets. It's how do you buy insurance? What insurance do you need? What do you want your insurance to do? It's only confusing if you're talking to people that are not advising you with what it was. They may not be asking you the questions of about your family history, about your financial suitability, to say how do we design it that you get the benefits that you want. And that takes a conversation. Now, a lot of people can say, "Well, I'll do it on the computer, or I'll take a class," and those are all good things. But you have to sustain it, I think, or which is what I do is consult and have a relationship with a wealth or financial advisor that you like, and they have the background and skills for your particular situation. And these are things, it's learning and it's a process, and you're not going to do it all at once. It takes time, and you learn, you make mistakes, you deal with people, some people you like, and you'll trust. Sometimes it transitions.
You challenge the myth that only affluent people need long-term care planning because they have money or they are within the means. What are the hidden risks that even well-resourced families overlook? And how can just a middle-income person start planning without feeling overwhelmed?
If I said that it's only for the affluent, then I misspoke or I didn't explain.
No, you challenge. I said you challenge that it's only for the affluent. You challenge.
It's not. I think it's almost the other way, where a lot of times the affluent will say, "I don't need to have a care benefit because I have sufficient assets." May or may not be true, and they always think of the benefits that I advocate is only for the middle class. But what's the middle class? Where do you begin, or what's affluent? And how do you decide, what's affluent? So we attach numbers to it. but depending on somebody's lifestyle and longevity, what people recommend or what they advocate or what people think may not it may not work, because what you need to do, in other words, if in America, let me just say, in America, if you are just on Social Security, or probably you probably don't have the financial suitability to own a long-term care plan. So then what do? Well, in America, we have Medicaid, and it may or may not be suitable. It sometimes takes a while to be certified to be to have Medicaid benefits. So, if that's the case, my recommendation would they do it in advance, sort of know what to do. So if whenever it happens that, that you have the paperwork, that you're prepared for it. And I also advocate that no matter what age, even if you don't decide that you don't want a caregiving plan, whatever age, at least that you're aware. So at some point where you say, look, now I'm ready. I have the financial resources, or I have, the interest, because there's nothing fun about this. What's fun? Planning a vacation, going out and having a meal, going to some social event. Those are fun things that people enjoy. Shopping. Those are enjoyable things. But planning for your financial, retirement planning, insurance planning, caregiving planning, what's so much fun about that? But it is necessary. And these are things of which, if you find the people that can advise you, and you have the conversation, and what things you need to do, then incrementally you can start putting those parts together. For example, in the early years, I recommend certainly people begin a retirement plan. Even if their company, or if they're with a company, to say, look, what will the company contribute? What do I need to contribute? And also, to have your own savings plan separate from what you may be with your company. Start with that. Also own some life insurance, even if the company says, oh yeah, we have 10 or 15,000 or whatever life insurance. Start your own life insurance plan. And if you can, even if it's modest, start a long-term care plan, and then maybe you can add to it, or depending on it, what you're giving is time, because that's the same thing that happens in retirement planning. Is you got to give it time. You can't wait till you're in your 50s or 60s and say, "Gee, now I'm going to have a retirement plan." It takes time. And then once you get into the habit of it, it's not as awful as you may think.
That's true. I was going to ask you what's one sentence you would give for a young professional, but I think that's it. You said that start early, start with your retirement plan, start with your long-term care plan, and have a plan for your finances. What's one question you wish more families asked before a caregiver crisis happened?
Is to plan in advance. I actually, a few days ago, I got a call from somebody where they had a parent that was 81, mm-hmm. and they were just looking into care plans, and in this case, the person had no financial resources. So, and also they had they already needed care, so there's really nothing that I could do. And that's sometimes where people wait for just in time, for an event, and then say, now I need to do something. It's too late, or it could be very expensive. So before, it's always best, to plan for things in advance. And you do that, if you ride a bicycle, don't you check your tires? Or hopefully you do, and wear your helmet. Is to say, before I do something, I'm going to check, make sure, things are the way they should be, or my car, make sure I have, enough gas or electricity, and the tires. And these are things, if you check in advance, then, and then if you have insurance, then if something unexpected happens, then, you have, resources of both income and access to, if you have questions, that they can answer your questions. But people make the worst decisions and spend the most money when they don't have a plan and it's just in time. So it's pre-planning. I mean, look, you do it for your vacation. You don't just suddenly say, "I'm going to go on vacation." I mean, you plan for it. You make the road for your road trip, or for your flight or the train. You make all these plans in advance. You make your reservations, and for the places you'll stay and the things that you'll do. And also probably your budget is to say, how much am I going to spend on entertainment and food and excursions and things like that. And it's the same, with financial planning. Is you do it in advance and you do it incrementally. You don't have to do it all. You don't have to start on Monday and say, I'm going to have it all in place. I will allow you, give yourself, time, do it incrementally. You don't have to do it all at once.
We know that caregiving often goes or is relied upon, the women in the family, the daughters, the sisters. How do we reframe, or not reframe, we rather let people know about, long-term caregiving and long-term caregiving insurance, so that they don't feel the burden when it's too late, like the person that just called you and their parents are 80. How do we make sure that more people are educated about this?
It sounds simple, but contact either if you have a wealth advisor, financial advisor, and if they advocate it, great. If they don't, in a way, I think it's not malpractice, but I think it's what they should say is, and maybe they should be say, look, I don't advocate it, or I have issues about it, but if it's something important, contact Raymond, contact somebody that is involved with long-term care benefits, to, if nothing else, to have the conversation. But it isn't just women that are involved in caregiving. Us guys are involved in caregiving too. In fact, later this month, I'm going to be a partial caregiver for my wife, who's going to that needs knee surgery. Now we're also going to hire a caregiver to do certain things, because personally, I don't enjoy being a caregiver. It's not a job that I particularly desire to do. It's not that I won't help my wife in things. There's just certain, maybe certain activity things that I think somebody else would be better suited. But us guys are involved in it too. It isn't, and if you don't believe me, when you're out in public, when you go to a social event or you go to a meal, you're going to see, especially around here where I live in Washington, I see, the guys that are helping their spouse or partners with their wheelchair, or just making sure they don't, the girls don't tip over, and vice versa. So the guys are involved too. I know that depending on the culture, depending on the family, depending on where you live, it might be more where the females are supposedly responsible. But I'm noticing, more and more of us guys have to be, are involved, want to be involved, should be involved. You're going to have look, I've been married a long time. If you're going to have, marriage is a tough business, and if you want to have a relationship, you got to have empathy, and and if you don't care about the other person, why are you in this relationship? So if people care about each other, they will help each other, I don't think there's anything wrong with saying, look, there's just things I just don't want to do. I'm not a nursing home or assisted living material. I'll get it if I had to go to a nursing home, I'd get expelled, because I'm not even going to. I would, because I have certain requirements or certain things that I want people to do, and if they don't do it, I'm just not I'm not always a pleasant, cooperative person. It's not that I am demanding or I feel entitled, but I just have a way of how I like things done. So my preference is to be at home. Either my wife can help me in things if I need caregiving, or we can hire caregivers, but I have the life that I want. And that's also something else too. When people think of caregiving, they think of, as if you're almost comatose, or you just can't do anything for yourself, or you can't communicate. Quite the opposite. Most people, unless they've had a severe stroke or something of which, has affected their speech or so affected their cognitive abilities where they can't communicate. Most people that need caregiving, can have usually good cognitive skills. There are a lot of things they can do, but they may have mobility skills, or they may have if it's cancer or neurological, they're just things that they need somebody else to help them. But there are a lot of things that if you do have people that are caregiving, then you can go out in public, you can go out and do things. It's just having people that are helping you get dressed and bathe and do all the other things, so that you can go out. And what's the opposite? If you don't have people that are helping you, then you're going to feel embarrassed, say, no, I don't want to go out, or you get depressed. But it's the same as if you're in assisted living. There's nothing wrong with being in assisted living or nursing home. I'm just not the material. But if you are, then you want a nice place. You want people that care for you, depending on your situation. There's social activities. There are a lot of things that you can do, but you just don't want to. People are scared about it, saying, "Well, I'm going to be housed in a nursing home or an assisted living. I'm going to be in storage, and they're waiting to die." And that's not. I'll say it's not that's not my personal desire. But it can be depending on what facility or at home is. Do you have the setup and the support system? Meaning, people that are helping you. That there are a lot of things that most people can do. You just need help. Don't believe me? If you have kids, what do you think you're doing with your kids? You're making sure that they're bathed and they're dressed and they're pottied and all that, and then depending on the situation, then they go out and play or they go to school. And it's the same, when you're older. It's a little bit different because when you're an adult, you have more rights and privileges, and also verbal skills that you can, express your opinion. But in many ways, it's the same thing. People need to be bathed. They need to be dressed. But of course, it's a bit more complicated than that because you have. Somebody has to schedule doctor's appointments. Make sure you're taking your medications. You probably have financial issues. You got to pay bills, and also to look after your assets. Make sure if you have CDs or money markets or other things that need to be updated, somebody needs to be responsible for that. Or even if you are capable, sometimes it'd be a trip to the bank or whatever it may be. It isn't just the transferring and the bathing. It's all the other administrative activities that you have to do, making the doctor's appointment. The other thing too, I'm an advocate, is that this is another thing I'm not good at, is that if I have to listen to the doctors, I'm not good at listening to them. And so I'm
a lot of men aren't.
Yeah. And so that's why, a lot of times I'll bring my wife, depending on the situation, that she can either listen or advocate or get, because there's sometimes I'm not either listening, or I'm listening, and then I got to make sure that I've written it down, or I have some way to remember. But these are situations where it's always good to have somebody else. I call it an advocate.
Mm-hmm.
It can be your spouse, or partner, friend, bring somebody with you, because there are things that maybe they will ask that maybe you don't want to ask or can't ask, or you have forgotten, and these are things that are really important, because when you're not well, if you're not sleeping well, you're tired. If you're tired, you're not as enthusiastic, and also your amygdala, your decision making isn't always as clear. So it's always best to have somebody else that can help you to work, to know or to understand, what where you are in your health situation, or what things that you need to do. And if things are in balance, and what I mean by that is, if you're getting a reasonably good rest, if you feel that people are paying attention to you, just because you need caregiving doesn't mean you can't have a life. Of course you can have a life. And my father needed care three times in his life, for long periods of time, and and my mother was usually his main caregiver. But with his last illness, when he was actively dying, it took about 2.5 years for him to die. They actually went on cruises. They did things, and she would set up, make sure that he had enough caregiving support where she could then do the administrative. She could say, look, I need help in this and this. So there are a lot of things you can do, but you can't do it if you don't have support. You can't do it if you don't have people that are advocating for you. Then you're either stuck at home or in a care center, and that's that's not to me a honorable and helpful transition from an active lifestyle to transitioning to that you need care, and you may need care for a long time. I mean, some people will tell me, look, I am sure in my family, we're going to, as soon as I'm not well, I'm going to be dead. You sure about that? And supposing you're wrong, now what do you do? So this is where, having a plan in advance, or at least having the conversation, at least you're aware, because it is sometimes astonishing to me that, people will call me up or having a conversation, and they're okay to say, well, I'll wait for it to happen. And then it happens. And then their mind is overwhelmed. The family's mind is overwhelmed, because now you're starting from somebody is not well. If they're in the hospital, okay, they're taking care of them in the hospital. Then what? What are you gonna do when they're released from the hospital? And then you get a stack of papers of saying these are all the things you have to do. And then you come home. You have home modification? Do you have, do you need a particular kind of bed? How's your bathroom situation set up? And that isn't always a good time to do all these things. Is if you have planned in advance, it makes it tolerable. I'm not saying it makes it pleasant. I'm not saying, oh, this is a wonderful experience. I'm not well. It's an experience of saying, if this happens, what plan do I have to take care of this? It's the same, you own home insurance in case something happens. You get a fire or water damage or roof damage. It's something happens to your home. So what do? Well, you're not saying, oh wow, isn't this wonderful? My home was damaged. But if you say, I have a home insurance and it will pay to repair, at least you feel that you have the funds that you can hire people to repair your home. In this situation with caregiving plan, caregiving plans is not going to make you well. Hopefully, but what it will do is it will say, if I'm going to make the transition, I'm going to live as good a life as I can, and I have people to help me to live as good a life as possible. Of which there are a lot of activities, a lot of things you can do if you have where you want to live, if you know who's going to be responsible and helpful to your caregiving, and that you have the funds to pay for all this. Caregiving is not free. Even if you're the spouse or the partner, it's not free. Or you have family and friends, it's not free because unless you all live on the same street, which most people don't do anymore. Or families. I mean, in some cultures, depending on the country, it may be that everybody lives, in a geographic radius. But in the United States, we're all over the place. We might live in different counties, we might live in different states. So if somebody needs to help them, then somebody either has to get in a car, which is an expense, or you got to get on a plane, and there's an expense, and then you come and if they have a career and they have to curtail it, or they have to take a lot of vacation time, there's an expense, and even if there isn't an expense to that, people worry. Because they'll worry about their spouse, the partner. They will worry about their friends or their parents. They will worry. So there's a mental health cost.
Thank you, Raymond, for sharing about this.
I hope I wasn't dour, or make it depressing.
No, I think it's very educational. We don't know, or we never knew about, this offering. And a lot of people don't know that this is something that they can get. I think it's supposed to be something that we are educated about, and we make sure, like you said, when you buy a house, you get home insurance. So in case anything happens, it's practically mitigates the risk in certain life events, and that's all it is. Thank you so much for sharing with us.
My pleasure.
Where can our listeners or watchers find you if they would like to know more, contact you about getting long-term care?
Well, if you're in the U.S., what I recommend is, if it's something you say, look, I want a two-way conversation, at least to have the conversation, maybe set up an appointment. It's area code 253-275-6091, or my website is www.lavine, LAVINE, Now, there's two things. A lot of websites, you just go there and says all these wonderful things about me, but one of the some other information. But what I recommend is in the upper left. You can put in, your lifestyle information. It'll give you then an idea of, what your life expectancy will be, but it'll also show you what caregiving cost. What does caregiving cost? And then, if you want to do your own calculations to say, look, do I really have enough funds to do this? And if I don't, then I need to either have some form of long-term care plan, and it'll give you visually that kind of information. Think of it this way: it's like if you talk to a financial planner or wealth advisor, and they're going to ask you, how much will you need when and if you retire? How much income are you going to need? So what assets do you need that will put off that kind of income to pay for your lifestyle, and how much time do you have between whatever age you are to when you want to retire? And then you look at different investments and what the returns will be. But this is, that's one way, that it'll help you visualize it. The other is that, in a lot of websites, it'll be, the 46 frequently asked questions that sort of ask, answer what you want to know. But in the lower, there's three dots where you can put in information. And the usual is, how much does long-term care insurance cost? And there are two ways that they're looking at what does a long-term care plan cost. That's what they really. But what they really need to think about is the opposite. If I don't have a plan, how much do I have another 2, 3, 4, 500,000 to spare, either from my assets, and if I don't, That's the true cost of long-term care. Then a care plan is, if you look at then what the premiums are, is a lot. It's a lot less to own a plan that will pay for, depending on how much care you think you might need. Some people it might be 6 months. Some people it might be a year. Somebody it might be 5 years. So that'll you can put in those questions that it will help you to get information, so that when you do have a conversation, that you'll have information that you can ask those questions of me or to others.
And I'll definitely put all the links in the description box, for your links for where people can find you.
Thank you.
Thank you.